After 30 years behind bars, Trump just freed gang founder Larry Hoover. Justice finally served, or the most calculated political move ever? Look, I've been fighting for criminal justice reform for decades, and when I heard about Larry Hoover's commutation, I had to pause. This isn't just another Clemency case. This is about a man who spent 3 decades in solitary confinement, a punishment so severe that the United Nations calls it torture. But it's also about the founder of the Gangster Disciples, one of Chicago's most notorious gangs. Larry Hoover was sentenced to life in prison back in 1973 for murder, then hit with additional federal charges in the 1990s for running a criminal enterprise from behind bars. For 30 years, he's been locked away in the most restrictive conditions our prison system offers. No human contact, no sunlight, just concrete walls and endless isolation. Now, legal experts are divided on this commutation. Professor Sarah Chen from Northwestern Law School argues that Hoover's case represents everything wrong with our justice system. 30 years of solitary confinement doesn't rehabilitate anyone, it breaks them down psychologically. Criminal justice reform advocates have been pushing for Hoover's release for years. Kanye West famously met with Trump about this case back in 2018. Kim Kardashian advocated for clemency. But this wasn't just celebrity activism. Organizations like the Sentencing Project and the ACLU have long argued that Hoover's continued imprisonment served no public safety purpose. Dr. Marcus Williams, who studies gang intervention programs, points out something crucial.
So Larry Hoover is 74 years old. He's been calling for peace from prison for decades.
His own son, Larry Hoover Jr., has become an advocate against gang violence. Sometimes keeping someone locked up becomes more about revenge than justice. But let's be real about the other side of this story. Victims' families in Chicago have legitimate concerns. Detective Maria Rodriguez, who worked gang crimes for 20 years, reminds us,
"The Gangster Disciples were responsible for countless deaths, drug trafficking, and community destruction."
Some families are asking, why does he get to go home when their loved ones never will? This tension is at the heart of criminal justice reform. How do we balance accountability with mercy? Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the timing. Trump announced this commutation just days before leaving office alongside pardons for Steve Bannon and others. Cultural commentator Dr. Aisha Thompson raises the obvious question. Is this genuine criminal justice reform, or is this about appealing to black voters after 4 years of divisive rhetoric? The political calculus is undeniable. Trump's relationship with the black community has been complicated, to put it mildly. From the Central Park Five to Charlottesville, many African Americans felt targeted by his administration. But criminal justice reform was one area where Trump actually delivered. The First Step Act, which he signed in 2018, was the most significant prison reform legislation in decades. Legal analyst Robert Hayes suggests we can hold 2 truths simultaneously. This commutation might be politically motivated and the right thing to do. Politics doesn't invalidate justice. Sometimes it takes political pressure to achieve what should have happened years ago. But here's what troubles me. If this was really about justice, why wait until the final days? The timing suggests this was more about legacy management than genuine commitment to reform. Here's what we can't lose sight of. Larry Hoover's case is just one story in a system that warehouses 2.3 million Americans. We have people serving life sentences for nonviolent drug offenses. We have elderly prisoners dying behind bars for crimes they committed decades ago. We have a system that costs taxpayers $80 billion a year but doesn't make our communities safer. The real question isn't whether Larry Hoover deserved clemency. The real question is, why did it take a presidential commutation to address an obviously excessive sentence? Reform advocates like Brian Stevenson have been saying this for years. Our justice system is broken not because of individual bad actors, but because of systemic failures. We need sentencing reform. We need to end solitary confinement. We need to invest in rehabilitation, not just punishment. Larry Hoover's freedom is a victory, but it's also a reminder of how arbitrary our system can be. Justice shouldn't depend on celebrity advocacy or presidential whims. It should be built into the system itself. So yes, I'm glad Larry Hoover is free. After 30 years of torture disguised as incarceration, he deserves a chance to spend his remaining years with his family. But let's not celebrate one commutation while ignoring the thousands of others who remain trapped in an unjust system. Real criminal justice reform isn't about individual cases. It's about changing the system that created those cases in the first place. That work continues regardless of who's in the White House.